What's up, everybody? It's the morning audio show with Mikey, and I'm going to start doing this every day. Today is it's actually like the fifth one we've done, but fifth or sixth or something like that. I'll start numbering these things, but at least this morning it is about vibration control. Okay, vibration control in your HiFi system. Pretty much with anything, with engines, with all sorts of things, vibration degrades. It just wears things out. Vibration, in the case of audio, does absolutely degrade the sonic. How do you know this is true and that I'm not just making this up? Well, think about the chassis. Jeff Rowland's chassis are all made out of billet aluminum. They're machined out of a big, thick piece of solid block of aluminum. Why is that done, you ask yourself? That's a lot of effort to go through for a chassis that you could just slap four sides on, or six sides, top and a bottom. And that's because you don't want the chassis to vibrate. So you make it out of a big, heavy piece. Some people used to do granite and different things like that, where you just put it in a big, heavy chassis so that the chassis doesn't vibrate with the airwaves from your speakers. Your speakers are going to make airborne vibration in the room. That will excite a chassis. Depending on how loud you're playing, what frequencies the speakers are doing, you can make your gear vibrate, which will transmit into the PC boards and into all the chips and resistors and all that. And you get vibration on a board level, on a micro level, which degrades sound. Otherwise, there wouldn't be these hundreds of different kinds of isolation feet. They wouldn't send you gear that has rubber feet on it, or these kind of feet that move that sort of help moment, which is the side-to-side motion in physics. If you look at clocks, sometimes you'll see in the old school DACs, they would take the clock module and they would put it on a separate little PC board, and it would have rubber bands. So it would be on a 4 little rubber band suspension for the clock module, and the wires would hop from the main board, over to the isolated board on rubber isolation bands, and all of that is for vibration, because vibration can bring jitter. It can degrade. It degrades. Okay, if it didn't degrade, we wouldn't see all these attempts at curing vibration, right? It wouldn't be such a business. So that's proof that it's clearly important. Vibration isolation. People refer to decoupling. Okay, decoupling, and that word is a complete farce. Okay, there is no decoupling on the planet Earth where we have gravity. Okay, so there's only two different. There's rigid coupling and or efficient coupling, and there's inefficient coupling. So why is this important? Well, because there's two different ways to tune your audio rig based on the methods that are used to control vibration or to mitigate vibration. The two different ways are either rigid coupling or soft materials, otherwise referred to as isolation. Okay, they do two very different things. One of them, let's take isolation, we'll call it, is the idea that you want to soak up vibration into a soft material. You have to understand your gear is a hard material, right? It's steel chassis, it's hard fiberglass boards and transformers and metal and stuff like that. So it's hard. So it is very efficient at transmitting vibration. It'll vibrate and you can measure it pretty easily if you have a little accelerometer or whatever. So you want to get the vibration out of there. You want to take care of the vibration. Some people say, let's soak it up in soft material. Okay. And what happens to the vibration then is it gets converted into heat. If we're going to get into the physics of it all, right? It converts the vibration into heat. So you soak it up into the soft material and it turns into heat. Now, if there's too much and it can't turn it all into heat, it's going to go back into the steel or your chassis again. If it's maxed out with its absorptive ability due to the volume and the mass of the silicone, let's say, or sorbethane or whatever. So what that does is it soaks it up and it turns it to heat. That is a slow process. That is inefficient removal of vibration, and it doesn't necessarily always remove it all, but that still is useful to do it that way. And I'll tell you why. Because by using that slow motion, and especially if you take your gear or speakers and you prop it up on top of isolation, on top of sorbethane, on top, and you put your speakers on maybe springs or something like that, what it's going to do is it's going to introduce something I mentioned earlier called moment. In physics, moment is the movement of something side to side. Okay, so if you have a sorbethane a puck, let's say, or a layer of sorbethane, it is going to have a specification called moment. That is, how loose is it, where it's going to go this way back and forth, or how dense and hard is it, where it's really not going to move back and forth. One of them is squishier, like a wetsuit material. That's real squishy. That has a lot of moment. The one that's harder, say Delrin, a plastic, that's going to have much less, and it's going to totally, and then you get to metal where you have extremely little and maybe, none to even speak of. That's why we get into metals. They're two very different ideas. And the metals being the spikes that you see, metal spikes. So you can think of the two different things are spikes or hard feet versus soft sorbethane feet. One is going to give your gear a softer sound. The other is going to give your gear a cleaner sound, a more defined edge. Okay, that's the hard materials. So it's easy to think of in your mind. The reason I'm going into this with you is based on how your system sounds will depict what type of tuning you want to do. If your system is a little bit diffuse, the sound's a little bit diffuse, you're not hearing the ting of the stick on the cymbal before you hear the shimmer of the cymbal and the fade of the cymbal. You have to realize a cymbal sound is like four different, it's got an attack, an evolution, and a decay. Okay, so it's not just one sound. A cymbal is three sounds. If you're not hearing the three sounds on a cymbal hit, you're not getting all your music. Okay, you're just getting one sound with splash or whatever. That's not what we listen to in our high-end audio. We listen to three different sounds. We listen to the attack, the tick of this thing, and it's just a tick. It's a very high-frequency sound. And then the evolution, it gets louder, and then the decay goes away. We hear all of that, okay? If you don't hear all of that, you want to bring that forward a little bit, you're going to add rigid coupling, okay? You're going to add the brass cones or the metal cones. The reason I say brass, and I talk about brass all the time, is brass as a metal has the best resonant property. It transmits vibration, and it's better with vibration than any other metal. Okay, if you don't believe what I'm saying, why do you think they make bells out of bronze? The big ass Liberty Bell, that shit was bronze, right? The naval bells are brass. Naval uses naval brass. The ding ding that they use on the ships, those are all brass. Why are gongs and cymbals made out of brass and bronze? The yellow metals, that's on purpose, okay? Because they have the best resonant properties. So why would you not put your metal cones made out of brass too when they transmit vibration better than any other metal? So it's a case against stainless steel, against copper cones. I don't even think people make copper, but they stainless steel and other things. Now, some people use ceramic, there's DH cones, which are ceramic. That's a whole nother thing. That's somewhere in between. And that one deposits into a Delrin cone. So everybody has their own philosophy and they'll do cutaway views. Look we've got this thing with a ball bearing steel or a ceramic ball bearing inside. Those ball bearing things that move around, all those puppies do is take away the moment. They adjust for moment because it allows your thing, it soaks up when your component's vibrating, it's going to let the thing move very slightly. So that does it even different way. Everybody claims to have the best, okay? And it's really not about it's about what's best for you, what's best in your personal system. Okay, so you want to use these materials to tune. If your system is diffuse, you don't have the three sounds of a cymbal, you want to add brass cones underneath or a brass stand with cones and inverted cones and other cones. There's something called Live Vibe Audio, that I like their stuff. I don't even sell it, but I tell you guys about it. Live Vibe Audio. They have something called a Rhythm Junior stand. In your audio system, if you're a digital audio system, if you're only going to put one piece of vibration control, put it on the DAC. That's it. If you're in an analog system, put it on your phono pre or your preamp. Those are the places where you'd put, but you want to have it on at least. Look, if you can have it on everything, you have it on everything. If you can't do that, then you want it on at least the DAC or at least the phono pre, And if you can't do a Rhythm Junior stand, which is maybe $800, then do $300 for 3 cones plus the pucks that go underneath. And you can just put the cones in direct contact with your chassis. The other way, you're going to put it on soft materials. If your gear is too forward sounding, you have a sharp sounding gear, that's when you want the soft materials. And keep in mind, I'm giving you Band-Aids. These are Band-Aids to fix things. Really, to fix it, you want to do a down the center transparent system from the get-go where everything's transparent, and then you're not contingent, you're not dependent on tweaks to make or break your sound. But so many systems out there, you guys are dependent on your tweaks to get your system right to where you want it to be. Typically, systems may be a little forward sounding. If they're forward sounding, you can try some of the softer materials underneath your deck that will lighten it up. But you have to realize when you soften it up, you're going to make it less harsh on your ear, but you're also going to take away potentially the 3 sounds of the cymbal and reduce presence. You're going to reduce presence in order to get rid of ear fatigue. So the ideal situation is to have transparent gear and use rigid coupling, because rigid coupling just immediately drains vibration out of the chassis into the sink. They call it a vibration sink, like a heat sink, but it sinks vibration. It doesn't seek heat or sink heat. So that's a mouthful, but I think you guys get the idea, which is there's 2 different types of vibration control. One is soft, one is hard. They're for 2 different things. One softens the sound, one gives cleaner edge and better wave launch on speakers, and just it's the rigid coupling. So you can use either depending on what you need in your rig, but make sure if your rig is leaning forward, it's already harsh sounding. If you add rigid coupling, you're probably just going to relay that harshness even better, because that's what this does. It gives you better, cleaner edges. So, and you want, we'll go over what makes things harsh in another video, but I wanted to bring that to you about vibration control. That's the 12-minute version of vibration control in a nutshell. Thanks for joining. See you tomorrow morning.